bars in a raid. Man, I go hard like Santan.
Good evening, and welcome to the latest episode of Touchline Gunners. I'm joined by most of the original cast, actually. It's nice to have a semi-full house for once. First up is Leroy. How you doing?
I am stupendous. Thank you. Very good. How are you?
Surviving, man. The people don't know the technical difficulties we've just been going through to get to this stage of the pod, so let's just be thankful we're all here and awake. Next up is Shabs. How's it going?
I'm tired, man, from waiting on one uncle in Kaduna State to send you a two-factor authentication code. I'm tired. I was ready to roll. Listen,
we're really saving on the admin costs at Touchline Gunners. That's all I'm saying. Because how can one man in Croydon on an iPhone have so much power? I don't understand.
Where's all the mandem that you can commission off of Fiverr from Jakarta and Kaduna and all them places there? Yeah, man, we might have to outsource more stuff for real.
In order to do that, we need to create more Patreon content, which is on the way. So please subscribe so we can get our admin staff fully staffed for the future. Just £3 a month.
Dan Cruz might be fired.
Yeah, because he's not available, is he? But yeah, £3 a month. Subscribe to Touchline Gunners. Of course, we're getting into transfer season, so we'll have more and more content for you, and we'll have more content across the summer. And last of all, here to spread the propaganda at Arteta HQ is Napoleon himself, Mr. Sushi man. AFC. How's it going?
I'm back. I'm here to speak the truth. No propaganda, just the truth, the plain truth, and that's all, baby. Good to be back.
Another man's truth is another man's spiel. But anyway, we will definitely get into it. It's good to have contrasting opinions. It's what makes for a good pod. So, Again, another reminder, subscribe to the Patreon and subscribe to us on all platforms. Touchline Gunners YouTube, Touchline Gunners on Twitter, X, Touchline Gunners on TikTok coming soon. We're going to have more and more content on there, feeding the streets as much as possible. That's what you guys deserve. That's what you're here for. So we'll try and make that happen. So, let's get into it. Arsenal went to the champions Liverpool last weekend, and we came away with a 2-2 draw. It was definitely a game of two halves. And now we had a few days to sit on our thoughts. I'd be curious to know what you, man, thought of the overall performance. Start with you, Shabs. How did you find it?
I thought it was absolutely shambolic first half, man. That first 20 minutes was as bad a game of football I've seen Arsenal play in a very long time. If I think about performance and the outcome of that first half, I probably have to go back to maybe Arteta's first 18 months in charge to have seen a performance like that. It was bad. We didn't start strong at all. We just were not at the races, just making silly mistakes. Players not switched on. We just didn't look up for it, man. And to be fair, we looked weathered at this part of the season. We just looked weathered. It was even more disgraceful coming off the back of having to give Liverpool a guard of honour at Anfield. And so I thought that would have G'd the players up to say, you know what, this is far from ideal. We're supposed to have been in contention. This is really supposed to be the year. Season's not gone our way. Liverpool have claimed it before the season's over, but let's go up there. We've just been knocked out of Europe. Let's go out there G'd up and just really stick it on these, man. And let them know we're still on the scene. We're still about. Like, you, man, got away this season, but you come around the block next time, we're going to catch you. And we didn't do that first half. So it was really shambolic, man. So I was very disappointed. Arteta 100% read these guys the right act. 100%. You could tell from his post-match interviews and that this guy was on smoke at halftime. And they came out and played second half like they got the smoke. So yeah, it was much better. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I don't really want to go into the second half too tough. There's others that can comment on that, but first half for me was very shambolic.
Yeah, I agree. Leroy, you want to come in on that? Did the second half remontada mean anything to you, or you just discussed it at how the first half went?
Um, Obviously, I was a bit disappointed with the first half and how that went for obvious reasons, but I actually took some positives from that because I think the manager deserves a lot of credit. Um, that could have easily turned into a rout. That could have easily turned into an embarrassing result. That could have easily turned into 3-4-5-0. Obviously, we didn't do well in the first half, but I feel that if we're going to slate the manager for the performance in the first half, we have to give him credit for how he rallied the troops in the second half. I think when we came out in the second half, we were really committed, really focused, and we showed what we're about. So I think it's important to provide context. We were missing our probably our best at the back. We were missing our best centre midfielder and the person who gives us the ability to control transitions, which is something that we really struggled with in the first half. They were just running through us. We are missing all our strikers, as you probably know. So that is the entire a big part of the spine of the team. So to do that and compete at Anfield, when people say, yeah, they've won the league, but in my opinion, they look like a team that was pretty motivated to win to me. Lord knows why, but they were. So I do think that we need to come out with some credit for the manager for how he managed to stabilise things and make sure that, again, we weren't embarrassed in the second half. And the run continues. No big losses. I know it's not a trophy, but it means something.
Yeah. German Dan. The first half performance, obviously, we think we all agree it was very poor. Are you putting that down to the team feeling sorry for themselves post PSG? Is it just a case of Liverpool were just a lot better than us? What do you think was so stark about the first half? Because I think we've all said we haven't really seen us perform like that in a very, very long time. And, there were so many gaps in between on midfield. And, we've seen some of our best players, Saliba, etc., make really, really bad mistakes. So do you think it's a hangover from the previous Wednesday, or it's just one of those cases where Liverpool were too good?
Yeah, it's difficult to tell, to be honest. There was definitely something that was wrong, which wasn't, for me, probably physical, because the second half, they played completely different. So for me, there's something that was wrong with the approach from the team. I don't think Arteta sent them out there to, get turned over the way they did in that first half. But so I feel like they probably didn't implement the game plan to the levels that they should have. And they make mistakes. There were a few mistakes made in that first half. And funnily enough, we were 2-0 down, but watching the game, we had all the ball. I felt like we could hurt Liverpool. We just were poor in the execution. It was kind of like what we doing. We could actually, Saka had the first chance of the game, which was a huge chance, which was a well worked set piece. I think there was another chance from open play that I remember. I was like, how have we not scored from this? And
The
then,
turnover, was it high up the pitch?
yeah.
We won the ball in the Liverpool's box and we didn't come to a shot.
Yeah. So, and then all of a sudden we're 2-0 down. And I was like, this is just unserious. And to be honest, I try to be quite fair on the players and stuff. But yeah, for me, it was well below the level. And it was, to be honest, it was an absolute joke what they served up in our first half. Absolute joke what they served up, to be honest. There was a lot of unforced errors, a lot of errors in our build-up, a lot of lethargic reactions to when transitions were upon us. It was kind of like they're on holiday and they're kind of accepted. Oh yeah, the league is done. We're just going out the Champions League, and I think taking it to half time at 2-0 was probably in a way saving grace. I don't think Liverpool were that good in their first half, I'll be honest. I mean, they scored 2 goals, but they didn't have to do much for them, in my opinion. I think I must have kicked them up the backside, because in the second half it was a complete contrast to that. So yeah, I think I wouldn't say hungover. I think it was just like, I think in that group chat, I think I said they must be feeling sorry for themselves or something, or just think it's okay to just kind of get past this game, when I think that game should have been a huge motivation for them to be like, yo, we have to do the guard of honor, but you know what, let's smash Liverpool, because that's what Chelsea did. I think Chelsea played a much weaker team than we did, but gave Liverpool the guard of honor and then left with 3 points, and it would have been nice to do that as well. Granted, our task was a bit bit harder playing away from home and whatnot. But I think that should have been a motivation, and to not see that in the first half was disappointing. But then in the second half, they kind of made it right. Even though Marino, like, we're gonna have to speak about this guy, man. But Marino, man, he what a guy, man. So yeah.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit is Mikel Merino. I called him Hermano Havertz because he doesn't seem to be good at his primary job that we bought him for, but the second job was scoring goals. He seems to be all right at it. So, not my cup of tea.
Havertz's primary job is scoring goals, brother. Good.
Is it actually?
This is come back, by the way, listeners, because these guys have been running amok for 2 weeks.
Midfielder becomes serviceable striker. So I do see the comparison.
It's all succession planning, brother.
You mean replacing shit upon shit? Anyway, we'll get into that a bit later. Of course, this leaves us second in the table on 68 points. We play Newcastle next week. It's more the question I have to do more. Is it any of you worried about not making top 5? I think that's the first question. The second of all, are you very disgusted at the fact that we are on match week 36? Is it? And we still have not qualified for Champions League football, even with the issues that we have previously in relation to injuries, suspensions, etc., etc.
To be fair, it was kind of when we advanced against Madrid, I was like, this league campaign is looking spooky, because I just don't see how you can put the effort in the league and try with the squad that we have available right now, try put the maximum into these games against PSG and Madrid and stuff. So I think around the Madrid games, we already were drawing and losing games. I think we had one win. I think we just come off the back of losing against West Ham or something like that and beat Madrid. So it was kind of like, let's try win the Champions League, because we've got nothing left in the league right now. And then once we've gone out, it was like, oh shit, we actually do have to win a game in the league to secure Champions League qualification. I'm not worried about top 5 per se, but you have to be realistic. At the moment, we haven't secured it, so we need to secure it. We play Newcastle next. They will need to win to put themselves in a good positions against. They're closer to the rest of the pack, so they'll be very motivated to beat us. And yeah, we need to make fire with fire. I say fire with fire. We need to have some water and cool out their fire or whatever. But yeah, and then we got Southampton at home. It's the last game at home. Whatever.
Yeah, Southampton away on the last day.
Southampton should be a layup. Let's be serious. That should be a serious layup. So whatever happens in the Newcastle game, we still have the Southampton game to fall on, who are relegated on the last day. But I mean, we saw what happened with City right there. So boy, I'm not ruling out anything. These men need to get the job done. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. I think Germans hit the nail on the head, man. I think we just tailed off. We just fizzled out in terms of the league when we thought the Champions League was on. Ultimately, we couldn't compete on 2 fronts. I think Leroy said it earlier as well. We have done an amazing job. Context is important. Context is everything. I think some of the context is our own fault. I think we've not created the context, but we've enabled that to be the context to an extent, because we didn't do nowhere near enough strengthening when we should have. And we had a second opportunity to redeem ourselves in January. And again, we didn't reinforce despite the circumstances. And then what happens? The window shuts and then bang, you lose your players. So we have been struggling. It would have been hard to compete on all fronts anyway, but we have been struggling with the injuries and with the situation. It's important to hold that in mind. But yeah, man, when the Champions League was no longer realistic, we had to go back and just throw everything into the league. And we've lost too many silly points this season, man. Like too many silly points. Even in recent months, really, before and after those Real Madrid games, there aren't that many notable league performances and notable league results for us. We dropped stupid points against Palace, against Bournemouth. The other day against Liverpool, I'm not sure if you could say points dropped or points gained, but again, it's another draw. West Ham, stupid, like just stupid, avoidable stuff. So I think we've created a lot of the situations for ourselves, like I said, by not doing what it is that we needed to do, but it's on and we need to play for it. I agree with German as well. I don't think Newcastle's not a must win. If we do win, it just provides a layer of comfort. I expect City to win their game. They're not playing this weekend, but I think they'll play midweek, can't they? They're in the cup final. I expect City to win that game. And then, yeah, it comes down to the final day of the season. So for me, Arsenal need to use the opportunity to put distance between us. Our recent track record against Newcastle, for me, hasn't been good enough for what we want to do. We should be able to comfortably beat Newcastle, and Newcastle over the last couple of seasons have continuously managed to knock points off of us, shave points off. Like some dodgy dealers. And yeah, I'm not 100% convinced going into the squad, knowing that it's going into the game, knowing that it's away, that we will necessarily leave St. James Park with all 3 points. What is it? Saturday fixture.
It's at home as well. Sorry.
Is it at home?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're at home. Oh, we're at the Emirates. Okay. Is it a Saturday fixture?
I think so. Just double check, but yeah, it's definitely at home because you remember the 1-0 loss to St. James. We had like one.
Yeah, we did. Sorry, that was the Isak header. Gordon Isak header. Yep. Oh yeah. So it is at home. My bad. But it doesn't matter.
Home on Sunday. Home at Sunday, 4:30.
Yeah, home on Sunday at 4:30. We should win that game, man. We should win that game. But I don't trust us enough. And I think like some of our players, especially some of our attacking players, just need to have a big performance, man, because they owe us. We're due. There's been a lot of carrying this season from Rice. Saka in large parts has had to carry us. We've had to be bailed out at times by Merino. We've had to be bailed out with shit performances from Trossard, but decisive goals and moments. We haven't really had standout performances, in my opinion, from some of our attacking players this season. So we need something. So,
Yeah. I think for me, in regards to where we are, having not qualified for Champions League, even with the issues that we've had, I'm still quite disappointed that we have not been able to secure. And a large part of it is down to the positions we've been in games. Like you've already mentioned, we have dropped, I think, more points than any other team this season from leading positions. So it wasn't even necessarily a case of we weren't able to have opportunities in the game. We went ahead, but through lack of concentration or whatever you want to call it, we've let these standards slip. And that is what makes it really difficult for me to accept. And I completely understand, clearly the league was gone a while ago, and there was a conscious or subconscious decision to focus on the Champions League. But the way I'm thinking is next season, I assume the plan is to compete on multiple fronts. So if we are coming to March and April time and we're in a title race and we're in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, how is the manager going to be able to juggle that task? Because I feel as if at various stages we've been able to do one or the other or not both. So that is a slight concern for me. But yeah, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but I still think at this point we definitely should have secured Champions League qualification, especially when you consider, like, for example, Man City, they went like 8 games without a win at a certain point. And, Newcastle had a bit of a shaky start to the season. So injuries and all, I don't think we should be in this position, but we are in this position. And we absolutely need to make sure that we beat Newcastle because, yes, in theory, Southampton at home on the last day is a gimme, and it is a gimme, but stranger things have happened. So I think we definitely need to get that under control. What I wanted to get into next is kind of what's been dominating the discussions about how do we rectify the issues that Arsenal have had this season. And that is naturally linked to a lot of the transfer talk that we have seen. So I guess it's a 2-part question. I think one for, I'll start with German because obviously he's here to spread propaganda. What do you believe our injuries aside? So we know we've had injuries. We've talked about it at length. In terms of our tactical or individual performance, what do you think the issues have been and what do you think is rectifiable? So to provide a slightly greater context, one of the big debates we have in the group on a constant basis is our tactical setup. Do we have creation issues, or do we just have finishing issues? And obviously, some of us believe that we have creation issues within the team, and as well as finishing issues. And you've got other people who believe it's just purely a fact that our forwards are not quality enough in the final third as it pertains to finishing. So a bit of a long-winded one. What do you think our issues are? How are they fixable? And then once we discuss that, we'll get onto the individual transfer stories. So go ahead.
So first of all, you know, there's two camps. One camp that I think, let me relay it, because you said primarily and secondary or like solely. No, there's two camps. One camp, I think, the issue is primarily creation and, you know, finishing, forward quality, etc. As, you know, secondary. It's part of the problem, but it's not the main problem. And I'm in the other camp. I think it's the other way around. I think forward quality is the main problem of this team, and creation is the secondary problem. Because, and I give you my reasoning for that, is because this team gets into very repeatable scenarios. The team is very good. It achieves the same result in terms of getting into the same areas every single game. So one part, you know, people always say, imagine Saka with less defensive responsibilities. Yeah, sure. I'm sure he would pick up more numbers. I'm not sure as a team, if as a unit we'd be as strong when we're full strength as I believe us to be. But one thing about Saka is that he gets the ball in the same areas every single game, and his ability to affect the game in those areas consistently with the same actions. He can either go on the outside, come on the inside. He actually does very repeatable things. It's just very difficult to stop at these things, and he can execute these things to a level that is either like game changing or near enough game changing. Like that's the level he plays at, and that's why the game model really helps him, because he doesn't have to you know, improvise much. He knows what he's going to face, and he knows that he has got the tools to beat it. He knows what he needs to do to, you know, face the problems that he faces. So we face that, and he's very effective. On the other side, then you have Martinelli, which I think is very up and down. In some games, like against PSG, for example, he's skipping past Hakimi. He's getting the ball into the box, going on the outside, even when on the inside. Like, he will have games where he can do these things, then he will have games where he just can't do these things, or he struggles to do these things. So his level of application is just a lot more inconsistent. Like, I understand that Saka's level is, you know, not a normal level. He's a world-class player, but if we have forwards of higher quality or more options in the attack of higher quality, then, you know, the inconsistency that we see from Trossard as well in his application, and, you know, sometimes he decides a game, sometimes he loses us a game. You know, that discrepancy is too much. If you have that more consistent quality in the forward areas, because they facing or they're seeing the same scenarios, they'll be able to impact them. And then a big part of the thing that people always reference XG, open play XG. My big thing with XG is you need to actually get a shot off for that to count. So the amount of times I see us in scenarios and we're not getting a shot off, I'm like, well, this is a pretty good scenario. I'm sure if Rodrigo, God knows, you know, Leao, Nico Williams, if they're in those scenarios, they are more likely to get a shot off than some of the guys that we have. So a big part of XG is that actually getting a shot off. So when people reference open play XG, I'm always like, yeah, but I watch the games and I see how we play compared to how, you know, a Liverpool play, how a Chelsea play. Liverpool always get their shots off. They're very shot hungry. I feel like Chelsea, like the likes of Palmer, the likes of Madueke, like Jackson, they have a lot of shots. Even if they're not great shots all the time, but they get their shots off. Whereas I think we are shot shy. And again, I put it down to the quality of forward. Can you face a scenario when you can manufacture a shot as well? So that's my whole thinking behind that. Because overall, yes, there is a level of creativity issue as well, especially when Ødegaard is not playing well. But this season, if anything, this season has showed me Ødegaard can play shit and the team can be still very competitive. We outplayed Real Madrid over 2 legs, and I don't care what anyone says, we outplayed PSG over 2 legs. What did they have over us? They had the quality in forwards. They had big chances like us and missed them. We had actually had more big chances than them. They had big shots at us, they missed them, but they had half chances which they've scored. We've had half chances which we couldn't even get shots off. So, and I think the ones that we did get shots off, Donnarumma saved them. So, those are the margins that you're looking at when you're facing the very best teams. And I think this team is pretty close to competing for the big honours with all the best teams. The issue that we have is how other smaller teams play us, and do we have enough quality in those games to, take a goal early, or get 2-3 chances to get a goal, and then a game changes. I think, I know I'm having a big monologue, but people were looking at a game from the 22-23 season, which was against Chelsea. I think it was away from home, and looked in how we played through the lines against Chelsea, and it's like, I'm watching the highlights. I'm like, Chelsea didn't know how to play us. Like, Zinchenko is going behind their first line of press. 4 men are trying to press, and Zinchenko's just popping up behind, and we're playing the ball to Zinchenko, and he's in acres of space. Yes, we do still have those elements in our game, but teams don't play us that way, don't grant us that type of space, don't fall into the traps the same way. So what you now need is higher quality, and you need to find more evolution in your game. You need to find different levels of unpredictability, and this is where I think, like, the right back coming inside as well, or the Odegaard might play on the left. There need to be tactical tweaks, but ultimately I think the collection of players we have are very capable of scoring a lot of goals. We should be adding to it, but it doesn't mean that if everyone's fit, we are not capable. We are very capable. The team last season scored more goals than any Arsenal team have in the Premier League area. So, and that's a fact. People don't like hearing that fact, but it is a fact. So,
facts come with context, because when you ban that 91 goal figure about, you're also missing things within that, which is
what am I missing?
You can score 91 goals and still manage to not score in 8 games. I think is quite an achievement, because to me it shows you get some goals in gluts.
It is. It shows you that if we can score in those 8 games, boy, we want to something.
But we
crazy.
didn't. That's the point.
It shows you evolution. I have a positive outlook. You have a pessimistic outlook on it.
Oh, bro.
What is more likely? So out of 30 games a season, we're scoring in 38 games a season. In 8 games we don't score, in 30 we score. What's more likely? What we're going to solve? Scoring in those 8 games, or not scoring in those other 30 games? The 8 games. That's the probability. It's showing you already.
But would you not say that there was a somewhat common thread in those 8 games? But even if we leave last season, talk about the games this season that we've struggled in, right? We referenced West Ham at home very recently, right?
I didn't watch that game, but yeah, okay.
Right. Everton at home, we had Saka, we had Odegaard, we had a relatively fit first 11 for what we've had this season. If you think about some of the draws that we've had, where we maybe get a bit of a glut of chances that if we don't score immediately, then you're on tenterhooks for the rest of the game, because, if the game still hasn't swung in this direction, then, we're not expecting to win. So for me, I've been on the front lines for wanting new forwards for a long time. So you'll never hear me say that we don't have a finishing issue. We do. And that's something that I want to see rectified for a very long time. But for me, there are certain games in which we fall into, you mentioned like repeatable scenarios, but yeah, you're expecting Saka to do something. But if that doesn't happen, are we getting enough from our midfield in terms of being able to create or get shots off themselves? Because you mentioned if Odegaard's not playing well, we have a huge problem. And it's like,
that's the thing. I don't actually think we do. And this season, this is my whole theory. This creativity thing that people are talking about. If anything, you can look at the midfield and say, if Odegaard plays bad, there's a clear value add we have there. When we've seen him play badly, and we're still creating chances, we're still playing relatively well, we're still functioning as a team. So people are very critical of Odegaard's side of creation this season, which I agree with. But then the other side of the game that he does really well, people don't really recognize, because he does still helps the team function. Otherwise, the team wouldn't be able to compete. Like, how have we had a bad season with the injuries that we've had, and we're still second? We've fumbled like crazy this season. We're still second.
I mean, you could argue that everyone else has been crap as well, considering that Liverpool are about 17 points ahead.
Yeah, you can definitely argue that.
Shabs, you're on mute.
I agree with that, but
I'm saying everyone else has been crap, but Dan's point is legit. Like, we don't have to be in the context where everyone else is crap. what is it about us that still made us second? That still made us closest? That still made us better than the others? You see what I'm saying? So I hear it. I personally don't like it, and me and German have tussled around creativity issues at so many different points in this season. I personally don't like it, but what he is saying in this context, especially regarding Odegaard, is true. It is true. There are other components. He's had a really bad season, you know, by all stretches of imagination. He's had a very bad season. He has still done other things which enable us. He helps us massively in terms of being able to progress and build at times. Whether that is his function or should be his function is a different debate, but the fact is he does it, and you see so many times. And not just this season. I've said it so many times. I've used the language of him being a situational pivot for us, because especially when Rice is at 6, when we have struggled to progress or build, he has helped and drop deep and helped us to get the ball out. I personally don't like it because it means he's not in the areas higher up where we need him to receive the ball and play the danger and create the danger. It also means that he does so much running because of the defensive work that he does as well. How he presses, and for all of his woes on the ball and sometimes not making simple passes this season, he still helped us to be effective as a high pressing side to prevent teams from being able to play through us. It's an enormous value add in terms of our team shape, in terms of our defensive solidity, all of that stuff. So I don't like it. It stinks, but it's true. It's factual.
I don't know. I don't know if Leroy wants to jump in at this point. I don't know if he's there.
Yeah, so I agree with most of what German Dan said, but I feel that one of the biggest things that is missing from our attack. So I think in terms of the finishing issue, like, we outperform our XG. So I'm not sure if it's a finishing thing. I feel that it's always we're not getting enough open looks and we're not getting enough quality chances. Now, I agree with German Dan in an extent where it is a player quality thing, because good players get their shots off, and they get their shots off because of their quality. And that's an issue. But a part of that is the creative issue. And my issue is we don't have enough game breakers. So like Saka breaks open the game, but it's not because he's doing anything that you don't expect or doing anything sort of unpredictable. It's just quality. So he'll consistently beat his man. He'll consistently find the ball in. He'll consistently make the right decision. The only two players that we have that will do unpredictable things which create chances are Gabriel Jesus and Trossard. And Trossard's extremely inconsistent with it. But you'll notice when Trossard plays, a lot of the time Trossard plays, he will either do something in the final third that makes the assist or score the goal. And it's because he does things that are kind of unconventional outside the box. He's a low-key maverick, if that makes sense. He's frustrating to watch, but he either gets or creates a lot of the open looks that we get to actually have clear-cut chances and shots on goal. And that is especially when we're playing teams that are basically deep blocks, bunkered in, really trying to stifle us. So my issue is, it is definitely a player quality issue, so we can get better chances and open looks in different game phases, like especially when we're playing teams in structured play. I know teams like Liverpool even struggle with that, but they have a different model where they take a lot of transition chances and will take more risk and play a lot quicker. It's because we don't do that, which I do think we need to start doing a lot more. So that's another factor. We do need more players in the final third if we are going to persevere with this game model that are going to do more unconventional things. So German Dan mentioned in the chat about Cunha, for example. That is the type of, if we're going to continue with this game model, even though I have issues with him from what he looks like in terms of his emotion and mentality, but that is the style of player we're going to need in the squad, because that is the type of, they're the type of attributes we're going to need. Because if you have someone like that to bring on when we're in these games and we're 1-1 or 0-0 and it's 65 minutes, that is the type of player that's going to break open the game. So I feel that the powers that be need to decide what are they going to tweak the game model, and are they going to let the shackles off a little bit and allow us to create more transition opportunities. And if we were to sign a Gyokeres, I think they're going to have to, otherwise that signing might not work. Or are they going to continue and persevere with this game model, but then they need to then put the type of players in the squad that have a bit of that maverick nature about them to give us more open looks to actually score more goals. That's where I feel. That's what I feel about things.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're going to touch on Gyokeres in a bit. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the game break thing, I completely agree. And again, I'm not trying to get into sort of specifics about players, but just to provide an example, I think there was a goal that Barcelona scored in the Clasico last week, and I made a comment about the action that Pedri did in order to create it, where he was on the edge of the box and he was able to sort of take the ball, dribble, carry the ball into the final third, and do like the 1-2 with Rafinha, and I think it was Rafinha that scored. And it's like we don't really have that from central zones in our team, and maybe it's a case of we don't have the individual player who's able to do that, or you can look at it and look at our midfield construction and say, well, if you look at the players that Arteta has put alongside Ødegaard, it seems as if he's putting in players who their purpose is maybe to be available as like a person to receive on the end of a cross, as opposed to a person that gets the ball 2 feet to then create either with a shot or with a pass or with a dribbling action. So again, is that pointing towards player quality, or is that pointing towards structural setup? Because yeah, again, I'm all for upgrading our wingers, upgrading our centre forward, but I do feel as if there's a certain amount of weight that is carried in terms of the responsibility to sort of create and score amongst Saka and plus one other, where I feel as if we had quality in other areas, that responsibility is shared, and by that nature you have more gaps and more opportunities to actually go and create and score.
It's a combination of both. I think the only other thing that I would have added to counter what German was saying earlier, even though I do agree with him in the most part, is how we create. Yeah, and how we create.
We don't really access the central zones.
We don't access the central zones. It's how we create. You know, this was the issue before we signed Ødegaard. Yeah, and we all remember the days of the horseshoe and all of this stuff. And Ødegaard was signed to be that person. And remember, Arteta went on a long pursuit for, you know, a player who could be his maverick, so to speak, and who could unlock defenses from that zone 14, from that middle. I think it worked well to begin with. I think it's worked well for the most part. Let me not be harsh. Let me not talk crazy. This one bad season, down season, has got me talking crazy on Ødegaard. But for the most part, he's been top. And last season, I was talking about Ødegaard being amongst the best midfielders in the world. But it's how we create, and I think it's the instruction from Arteta. And I think Arteta is someone who just doesn't like jeopardy in games. He's quite risk averse. Rice is a fantastic carrier, for example, through the middle of the park, and we saw a lot of that when he was playing at West Ham. We have seen that in moments for Arsenal. We've seen him be able to kind of do that and carry the ball and go on these amazing runs and penetrate through the middle. But it's not something that I think our setup lends us to, and I don't think the instruction is there to say, yeah, when if these opportunities are clear and available in the game, sure, take them, but don't do that as your routine. Don't do that as your go-to. Mars Lewis Skelly, we've seen him. We've seen flashes. We've seen glimpses in some of the biggest games as well. Against PSG, we saw him and what he could do in terms of being able to penetrate and progress via the middle, both in terms of being able to carry the ball, but in terms of his passing. You know, his passing is becoming sharper and sharper and sharper, and we've seen that. Rice too, I talked about Rice carrying, but Rice's passing sometimes through the middle has been fantastic. We've seen Zinchenko, you know, who is capable of doing that. So we have a number of players, and there are probably some others. So we have a number of players who are capable, who don't do it. That to me isn't the quality bit. That's an instruction bit. That's a system bit. That's a setup bit. The quality bit is when we're talking about some of the other players maybe who are less capable of doing that. Some of the, like a Marino, or a Havertz when Havertz was being utilised in midfield. We weren't seeing that, or we were not seeing those qualities from him. Or when Trossard likes to come infield and drift into the middle, we don't really see that from him. How we tend to create is funneling the play out wide, progressing and being patient in build up, and then consolidating in the middle thirds, and then we look to hit players out wide, and it's heavily biased on that right hand side. To be honest with you, on the left hand side is more so we're looking to get counters and slip balls in behind the fullbacks, or in between the fullbacks and the centre backs, or into space. On the right hand side is usually looking into feet and drifting infield. So it's how we create is a big part of it, basically.
But I think we've always created like that, and the issue is, I feel that we've created like that from the beginning. I feel like we've always built up.
You mean under Arteta?
Yeah, under Arteta. So I feel like we've always built up in the wings, and then as soon as we get sort of wide in the final third, then we usually try and move it central. But we always have our rest defense in the right place to block the counter. But the issue is, teams aren't giving us that central space, because what happened in 22-23, we killed teams. Literally, it was, you'll go to Saka or go out wide to Martinelli, Saka especially, into Odegaard, and then we'd cook. We'd cook in that sort of central area, but we would do it once we were high already. Don't get me wrong, you did get Partey off occasionally, slipping a man, jinking a man directly into Odegaard, or Saliba directly into Odegaard, etc., or directly into Xhaka. But we've always primarily, when we're in settled possession, built up from wide and then come in when we're in the final third. My issue is, I think, the way German alluded to it earlier, teams just don't want to give us that space. So what you're seeing now, so much more than before, and it happened when Ethan came in as well, is teams always cover that out to in ball from either Saka or Ethan to Odegaard. They always have their midfielder coming across, or they always pull their winger back to block that out to in ball. Teams completely do not want to give us the central spaces anymore, because they know we'll kill them there. So I feel like we've always created that way, and we were a lot more fluid when teams weren't trying to hinder us as much. Now, the issue with that is, okay, if you're going to not give us that space, we need to react to that. And usually it's a player quality. So usually Saka is absolutely comfortable taking on a 2v1 and making something happen. Martinelli hasn't got it in his locker. And I feel that's why massively his game fell off from 2022-23, where he was getting more 1v1s, he wasn't getting double teamed. He just doesn't have the ability as Saka just to cope with that, and to cope in that congested space, and to make something happen. Someone like Trossard, again, inconsistent. Let's say Trossard, when he's playing well, he can do something out of the blue. He can do something out of the box. And we need players who are able to cope with what teams are presenting to us now.
This is what, to be fair, because there's been a couple of points I just want to quickly butt in. This is why I've been quite consistent on my player quality thing, because the requirements for this team have changed since the 22-23 season, and the scenarios we face are so different to that season. And any team that provides us with the scenarios that we faced in 22-23, they die. We saw what happened with PSV. We saw what happened with Sporting Lisbon. Even Madrid, to an extent, like we didn't even finish Madrid off the way we should have finished them off. So teams that play us in a naive way, teams that trust themselves too much against us, they will die. But the teams that are playing us intelligently, they can defend us well enough, because at the moment we don't have enough forward quality to unpick that lock consistently, unless Saka and if Odegaard was playing well. So, and that way become quite predictable. So, and then like to go back to, you were talking about the Pedri thing earlier, Khalil, and I think like our game model is different to Barcelona's game model. When we have players in those central zones that can jink past the man and play in, Skelly does that. He did that against Madrid. I've seen him do it regular in the Premier League as well. He obviously doesn't play in the same position as Pedri, but when we are settled, when we are parked in opposition's half, he will be in that same area. and he can do the same things, and he will do the same things to help unlock the game. Like when we were watching the games against Madrid, second game against PSG, I don't think Skelly was good, but the first game against PSG, I was saying Skelly and Saka are the key. They will unlock in the game. They're where the game breakers for us. So can we add more game breakers on top of these guys? Don't get me wrong. When they open up the game, which is different to what Rice does, Rice will have the space to, go into that space that has been opened up, and make an impact, be physical, win that duel, that key drive to drive it 20, 30 yards to get a really good chance. If we add the right game breakers, I don't think our team will struggle. But at the moment, it probably looks a bit haphazard. And I was going to ask you guys, in a way, I get it. People like the number 10s, but why are people so focused on playing through the central area on the football pitch? That's the most dangerous area to play through. When you lose the ball there, you are the most vulnerable. So I think I look at all the top teams in Europe, and their best players are out wide. Like the number 10 has died because, all the best. If you're a good 10 with a bit of speed, you're on the wing. You're on the wing. It's just as simple as that, because the game in that middle of the park, first of all the teams congest that middle. They don't want to have the best players have space. It's the hardest part of the pitch to play in. You have to be really, really good to play it in that pocket, receive on the turn, go past the man, drink a man, find a way pass. It's a very difficult area to play. You need to be incredibly talented to make a difference there for a big team. And then the teams defend you there aggressively anyway. So the best part is getting to players that are out wide who can face the play. Now in the zone 14 that you guys talk about, you have to receive and turn. No, out wide, Saka's getting the ball to feet. He's seen no one's behind him. No one can nick the ball from behind him. He can see the game in front of him, and that's the big part of why all the big teams in Europe, their best players are out wide. You look at Bayern Munich, Ulisse, Musiala, they're going to get Wirtz now, who's going to help with central, but he goes wide quite a lot for Leverkusen as well. He plays from the right left angle. He even plays from the right sometimes, like coming from that area. You look at Real Madrid, Rodrigo, Vinicius, Mbappe, all going wide to cook. And then you have the guys like Jude who run into the space that these guys vacate. It's not too dissimilar to what we're doing. It's just a different game model with different, characteristics. But essentially, we're all doing the same. We're all trying to get the best wide players, trying to get guys that are physical and technical and can finish up top and can press, and getting physical and technical players in midfield. That's all everyone is doing. Same as at the centre back, they're trying to get the Gabriels and Slivers. Everyone's trying to do the same thing. It's just about getting the best players to exercise what you want to do in more detail. But I don't think we're too dissimilar from the rest.
I hear you in terms of, yes, I do agree that a lot of managers see the central zone as the dangerous zone, and that's where you can't have turnovers. But sometimes I wonder whether Arteta was actually the assistant manager at Man City when he had Fernandinho, KDB, David Silva, Bernardo Silva all playing central midfield roles at the same time. Like, there is a path to prosperity having technical players in the center of the pitch. It's
they were funneling the ball wide as well, though.
Yeah, I mean, clearly had demon wingers. I'm not denying that, but in terms of having game-breaking ability in the center of the pitch, they most definitely had that. And then if you look at their potentially recruiting Reinders and Wirtz to a midfield of Rodri, again, I'm not denying that they have game breakers out wide, but it goes to show that having game-breaking quality century is what really separated City in that first iteration of Pep's team, and possibly what he's going to go for again. But in regards to player quality, we need to get on to Victor Gyokeres.
Yes. No, just quickly on these guys that you mentioned. Reinders is TBC. How good he is, I like him, but TBC how good he is. You're looking at KDB and David Silva. As I said, you need to be incredibly good to play in those areas. These guys are incredibly good. So how many of these guys are there in world football? Not that many. To be quite frank. And same as Wirtz, like let's see where Wirtz goes, but again, incredibly good. Reinders, I don't know how good. Rodri, incredibly good. It needs to be of the right quality, otherwise it doesn't work. That's why City shit didn't work this year as well. They had some folding stuff in there in the middle, trying to drill. Get out wide, man. Bro, it's the truth, man. The truth.
Yes.
Good stray. Good stray.
Truth, man. Get out wide and protect your mumsy, man.
Yeah, I hear that.
That is so rude, man. That's uncalled for.
He was telling the truth.
That's got to be the title, though.
Yeah. Next up, one of the big issues that will be rumbling on until further notice is the issues of our strikers and our forwards in general. But Victor Gyokeres, let's focus on him, and I guess in conjunction, Sesko. Now, let me set the scene. Isak, we're all in agreement. He's number one, etc., etc. But the purpose of this conversation is we're assuming that Isak is unattainable or for whatever reason. And that has naturally led us into the two camps of civil war. On one side, you've got the Sesko believers. The other side, you've got the Gyokeres believers. And there has been clashes. You have the Havertz stands who are talking about other people's lack of technical quality in order to diminish Gyokeres. You have the Gyokeres stands who are telling us that Sesko is a forever project and we're trying to win next year. So we have a multitude of swirling factors that contribute to the discourse. Now, what I want to know is from you guys, if Gyokeres or Sesko is your number one option in this case, as list the reasons why, and also if we were to go in one option or the other, is that a terminal decision? Like if we sign Gyokeres, do you think our title winning opportunities are done? If we sign if you sign Sesko, do you believe our title winning potential has been kaputted into another cycle of a new project? So let me hear your thoughts. You can go on this one, Dan. What's your thoughts on Gyokeres?
To be fair, and I'll give my thoughts, but I think it might be all Sesko advocates on this pod. So let's see.
I will stick up for Gyokeres partly because I do actually like him, but also just for balance as well. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because we need some tussle, I think. But now for me, and I think Leroy asked a good question in a group chat. He said something about they all have the material, or they all got the potential to be flops. And then you gotta have. I always think a transfer is like looking at, sure, the positive, the potential, but also the risk associated with it. And in football, there's this thing that you call sure bets. I talk about this sometimes on TG, and I know that man probably get tired of me talking about sure bets, but you need to look at a sure bet in football. Like if I look at Gyokeres, sign him for 40 million. He's 27 years old. He's got 2 years. It doesn't work out. What's his value in the market after that? I don't know. I think they're talking about 60 million for him or something like that. Yeah. So what is his value after that? And if it doesn't work for Gyokeres and he's 29, it's going to be very hard to get him off the books. So for me, and coming off the league that he comes off from, this is not even judging his quality or anything like that. It's just like looking at the factors and making a risk assessment on this transfer. And, you're looking at it and be like, if you're coming off that league and for 2 years you don't do well at Arsenal, are we going to be able to shift him for a profit? Are we going to be able to shift him for a profit that, on the book at least is a profit, with amortization in mind? And I'm not confident of that. Whereas with Sesko, I see the fact that he's more of a sure bet. He's a very sought after talent at the moment. After 2 years, he's 23. He will still have time. If it hasn't worked out for him, we can probably still sell him for a very good fee. And you can kind of count your losses. So there's different risk factors with both players. And then when I look at the profiles, I'm being this is not pause, but I have to look at the body. Like we're talking about athletes here. Like LeBron James for the last 20 years, like he's been a supreme athlete. Like look at the body type, the body shape of the athletes that last the longest. Look at Lewandowski's body type, body shape. I liken Sesko more to that. He's a tall guy. He's athletic. He got long limbs.
We're talking about football here. Just want to clarify.
This whole segment is crazy.
This is absolutely crazy, bro.
If it's the NBA combine, I know my man will be doing really well. I know he'd be doing really, really well, Gyokeres, I am not sure, bro. He's looking like the Hunchback of Notre Dame slightly. So I don't know, like on a purely physical athletic standpoint, and I'm sure he's got strength and he can run. Like agility wise, he looks a bit like stiff
looks
to me.
rigid.
Like
Yeah, he
just
looks
looks a
rigid.
bit like he does look like a bricklayer. And I'm not gonna say he's not a shooter, but that's what it looks like to me. So the athletic profile of Sesko, I'm more of a fan of. Technically, I'm finding it difficult to judge. To be honest, I think both have strengths, both have some weaknesses. Sesko sometimes like fantastic technique, sometimes rubbish. Gyokeres is a shooter, but then Sesko also looks like he's got some pretty good shooting. I think the one thing I give Gyokeres is like his scoring record. Like I know this league is probably not that strong, but like to score as much as he does and as often as he does, that's a mental burden, like to score that much, surely. So I'm leaning to Sesko for the sure bet things that I said. I haven't watched Gyokeres enough, and I'm not against Gyokeres. Like I'm open to both, but there's just more concerns with Gyokeres, in my opinion, than with Sesko. So yeah.
Yeah, Leroy.
So I would not say I'm a Sesko advocate because I feel that I can't really tell, and I feel that they've both got quite big bust potential. When I watched them on the same pitch at the same time, Gyokeres look better as of now, to me. Sesko looks every time. I mean, his highlights look amazing, but when I watch a full 90, I'm never impressed. He's got really good attributes, and you could see where he could grow into, but I don't think he displaces Havertz right now. From what I've seen for him in full 90s, I feel like he'll be coming off the bench for real. Now, one thing I like about Gyokeres is I mean, it's very, very difficult to really tell the absolute level in that league, but I really like the finishing. I really do like the finishing. I think the finishing quality is undeniable, and I think that will translate wherever he is. My concern is he going to be able to get a lot of his game is based around physicality? Is he going to be able to get his shots off? I think the comparison with Vardy is pretty good because I feel like stylistically a little bit similar, a bit more power and a bit more battering ram, less pace, less movement, but I see some similarities there. But with Gyokeres, like it's if he's going to be able to get those chances and if his shots per game are going to carry, and we would have to adjust to him stylistically, which I'm not against. It's just seeing the overall level. But like I said, the risk is if he busts, we're going to be keeping him to the end of his contract.
That is really crazy.
If he does not do well, he's there for 5 years on 200 bags, and there's a problem. Sesko, yes, we might grow into the role, but do we have time for that? So I'm kind of struggling. None of them are the sure thing, but I hope the club will make the right decision. Really, really tough because it wouldn't even surprise me if Gyokeres does come here though, and he does hit the ground running and just slaps 20 goals. It wouldn't surprise me either. I really am struggling to get a read on this player.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in Berta's ability to wheel and deal better than Edu. So in that worst case scenario where we have Victor Gyokeres who's no longer needed on the books, I'm sure he can cook something up. I mean, this is a guy who had João Felix back on his books and managed to shift him again, even though he went and embarrassed himself across Europe. So,
but that's a sure bet, brother. Sure bet. João Felix, one of the surest bets in football.
Yeah, he got his money. Berta got his money back.
Yeah, so
he got money, but they got money. But I think, and they got a sell-on fee.
If I'm 200K a week, I am sitting there, bro. No one's getting rid of me for nothing. As long as I get my money, I'm fine. So.
That's what Party been doing for 4 years or 5 years, man.
Yeah, but they have different cultural values in it. Like, I don't see Gyokeres sitting on the bench at age 29 just to pick up a paycheck. It seems like the sort of
I do if it's 200 bag paycheck and then
in London.
In London at Arsenal. Come on, bro.
Bro. You know how much 200K a week gets you in IKEA? It's a madness.
I said IKEA. There are other places I'll be frequenting with 200K a week, but we get the point.
That's crazy.
I have meatballs, fam.
Nah, Khalil, you ain't gonna do this. You're gonna try to skate off a lot ask me my opinion on this debate.
Wow. I'm ready to give my full opinion on this.
I'm saying you ain't asked me.
Oh, sorry.
Sesko.
My apologies, Uncle. Uncle, please forgive.
We're
Let
going
me
back
know.
there.
Let me know what you stand on.
It's. I agree. It's tough. It's incredibly tough because gauging the league and the transfer is difficult. You know, how is a player going to adapt from Liga NOS to the Prem versus how a different player is going to adapt from Bundesliga to the Prem? I think if you want a ready now, not ready now, but a more ready now player who is developed, Gyokeres has found himself. He knows who he is as a player. He knows who he is as a scorer. So if you want that, and it's just really the finishing piece, and I think we will have to adapt our game, very similar to how City changed their game, changed their style for Haaland. Haaland doesn't get involved really in build-up play at all. He's not going to do none of that Jesus stuff, dropping in and linking up and finding other players or whatever. He's just going to move.
I have it stuff.
Find the space and notch, get on the end of things and notch. And that's what we need. We need that. And we need a profile like that. Yeah. Sesko, for me, is more malleable. He's more moldable. There's more time to turn him into the striker that you really need him to be. So if you're buying and investing for the project right now, you go for Gyokeres. But if you're buying and investing for another like kind of mid to longer term project, you take a risk on Sesko. For me personally, looking at both of them, watching both of them play over a little bit of time now, Sesko is the more complete, better rounded football player for me. I think Sesko is just capable of doing more. I think Sesko is very close to Gyokeres' level now, and considering the fact that he's a couple of years younger, he's got a greater upside for me. I think if you get Sesko in the right hands, he can be developed very well. What I do like about Sesko, and again, we can talk about levels here, but what I do like is that what you are seeing in terms of both performances, consistency of performance, I should say, but also outputs, is that year on year, he does seem to be improving. He scored, I think he's at 21 goals this season, all comps. He's got and getting and accruing experience in the Champions League. I think he's got like three seasons of Champions League football now, one for Salzburg. It might have even been two for Salzburg, actually, but I know in that first breakout season, he didn't really play a lot in the Champions League. He had like a full group stage campaign for Salzburg, didn't score any goals, but it was good for the run out. And then he's had 2 seasons now at Leipzig in the Champions League as well. And he's also scoring goals in the Champions League at that level. So that's encouraging as well. And I think his repertoire of goals, for me, from what I have seen him be able to do, is better. I think he's got a more diverse range of goal scoring capabilities than Gyokeres. He's not a shooter in the same way that Gyokeres is. Gyokeres will get his shots off. I really like and admire and respect that about him. Again, I think he knows who he is as a striker. He knows who he is as a player. But yeah, it is a risk, man. Because if you sign him and he just doesn't, if you sign him and he doesn't adapt, and that becomes evident within the first 6 months, and we can't even really wait 6 months. He has to hit the ground running with Gyokeres. But if you sign him and he doesn't adapt, man, is that Pepe? It's kind of like Gyokeres has the potential to be a Pepe type deal, and it just doesn't work. And then you fail to move him on, and you're just stuck in it. And then it hamstrings you as well in terms of other business. So for me, it's really difficult. It's also difficult because of what we've done up to now. Jesus and the contract that he's on in terms of wages with the injury, he doesn't look like a player that you're going to be able to move on. Havertz, who I still don't believe Havertz was signed to be a centre forward, but deserves to be in the centre forward options for us based on his performances. Certainly last season, he deserves to be in the conversation. Let's be honest.
So,
whatever you think about him, He deserves to be in the conversation. Whatever you think about it, he deserves
Conversation
to be in the conversation.
Bro, what a list price? Sell him. Put him on right move. That's the conversation.
Well, he's there. So we've kind of hamstrung ourselves in a way because that's it. Like, you know, you can't really. You think about the age profile. You think about the wage and what we're actually paying the player as well. Like Havertz, you think about what you're going to have to pay for Gyokeres. You think about what we are paying for Jesus, who we can't move on. And Jesus, we don't know how this guy is going to return from his injury either. And things like this is why it makes even it makes me furious thinking about extending Trossard, because that's another one. You kind of like, now is the time to just get rid of that player. Let him go. Don't give this guy more money when he's a bit part player, when we will have other bit part players and we're going to go and sign another centre forward. It just, we need a centre forward, but don't clear out squad space, you know, to allow room for error and room for manoeuvre if inevitably it goes wrong.
Yeah, I hear that. I think my actual technical opinions on Sesko and Gyokeres kind of line up with a lot of you guys, but there's also agenda mixed in because someone mentioned that they can envision Sesko signing and him not displacing Havertz as our number one striker. Honestly, I can see that happening. If that happens, I just know we're not serious.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Hold on, let me just stop you right there. That shit can happen to Gyokeres as well. Just letting you know.
I feel as if there is a greater pathway for Gyokeres to start in. If Gyokeres, if we sign Gyokeres, I fully expect him to be starting in the first day of the season. Absolutely. Sesko, I can definitely see a scenario where he's being benched to start off with. I can definitely see that.
Listen, you might know I'm there for the pain.
Yeah, because you don't care about us winning. That's why you want this forever project where we just keep on signing guys who are going to develop in 2-3 years time. By that time, I'm touching 47, and then we're still on this project. I'm trying to win.
When Gyokeres don't score for 5 games, you man gonna lose your fucking mind. I know.
For 5 games, bro. The man said 5 games. Listen, for 2 games. For 2 games,
people are gonna be shouting in the group chat.
I'm gonna come to the group chat and I'm gonna see 500 messages, bro.
100%, because if that guy can't trap a football, yeah, he needs to leg it. He needs to. I swear to God, I will be shouting in the group chat. You'll be hearing me, voice note, full fucking blast. I will go crazy. Bounce off your kneecaps and you're not scoring. Oh my God!
I'm not gonna lie to you.
You'll be shouting in the group chat. You should be shouting now because he can't trap the ball now in Portugal with all this space around him.
That's my point. So if I want 71 goals.
I need us to sign the striker that real one and Ant one, so there can be no complaints. That's
so the striker that myself, Rowan, and Ant want is a certain Victor Osimhen. Shout out my guy, one Nigeria. But the thing is, we live
land him to the end
regime. So you know, we it's a no black scenario over here. So we've accepted that.
Well, he's again black,
huh? yeah. Let's not get into East African politics on the pod. Let's move on. But,
you're crazy.
On a semi-serious level, I like you made a joke about before, but I do see your point about like Sesko's vertical. It's a mad one. When he jumps up in the air, I can see why someone like Arteta is enamored with his physical profile. But for me, and I've said this plenty
he's a super athlete, man.
He is. He's crazy. For me, I grew up on Henry, RVP, etc. I would definitely love if my striker was like a technical masterclass and was able to score, 20 goals. But centre forward is the one place where I can forgo your technical inconsistencies as long as you score. That's why I'm a big proponent of Osimhen. That's why, I was happy to have Watkins in January. Like for me, your primary job is to score goals. If you're there doing the whole, he presses well and he traps the ball well and he links others into play, but he's going to 15, I'm tired. I'm so tired of this. Like we are so close to achieving our goals. And part of the reason we don't achieve our goals is because we do not have a penalty box demon. And for me, the path to that is the path that I'm most looking forward to. Now, that doesn't mean that obviously Gyokeres could come and be a flop, but I'd rather we take a swing in that direction than to then put another placeholder in there or have another guy that's going to have to take, another 2-3 years for them to possibly hit the peak. That's my whole issue with how this is framed. Because if you're going to grab Sesko, and let's say, for example, you go and grab like a Watkins, for example, I'm not saying we're going to do that, but if you go and get someone who is as close to a finished product as possible and have your project alongside him, all for it. But if it's a case of we're going to have Sesko doing cameos while he adjusts to the league, I'm pretty sure we're going to be in the same position that we are now, which is going to be lamented that we do not have a guy, who's able to put the ball in the back of the net. So that's where my stand on
But that's when the left forward becomes very important, right?
So yeah, I know obviously time's running on, and we'll want to touch on this.
We've got a lot of listeners' questions, man. So
yeah, so maybe this is something we'll probably pick up next week. But yeah, but back to that topic, I'm fine with whatever. What I don't want is for there to be reasonings as to why, next season we can't achieve our goals because we're waiting for Sesko to blossom into a striker. That's my thing. And I know obviously there's been jokes about Arteta wants Sesko and Berto wants Gyokeres. I assume whoever comes through the door will be a unanimous enough decision that we won't have these fallouts where one side is leaking about X, or actually we didn't want him, blah, 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 and then one side is saying another thing. So for me and Gyokeres, the last thing I'll say is we're in a league where Mateta, Strand Larson, Chris Wood, Jan Wissett, like there are plenty of decent guys.
These men don't play for Arsenal, bro.
There are plenty of decent guys who are hitting 10. I'm not even saying hitting 20, hitting 10. If Gyokeres cannot come and hit 15 in a team that creates enough chances, according to you, right, who just lacks someone who is able to strike the ball very well, I'll be very surprised. Mikel Merino had us dreaming of a Champions League final. I need to say this again and again and again, right? We had makeshift upon makeshift up there who was somewhat helping us achieve our goals. And I'm saying that, yes, Gyokeres has his flaws, but when you've got a guy who can finish like that, Portuguese league or not, I don't think it's something worth dismissing. But that's just me.
Fair.
Cool. This is obviously something we're going to be debating more and more in the coming weeks as we get further clarifications to what's happening. But yeah, let's get into listeners' questions. First one, Raj Dinga, shout him out. Have you guys done any left-back scouting? What players are you looking at to make the most improvements next season?
I don't want to see no fucking left back.
Why are we talking about
I
left
want to talk about no defenders. I swear to God.
Hey, big man. Hey, big man, read the room.
Yeah, you man.
This is
Read the room.
You man, I was about to start cooking your hato, you know.
I mean, hey, since you're there, I was going to mention Gyokeres. But listen,
start talking about Operation Speedos.
No left backs.
I was going to mention Gyokeres,
Next
but
question, please.
Leroy started on a rampage, so I just had to follow
yeah.
suit. No, but big man, Khalil, who's the listener? Who tweeted that?
Ranch Dingus. He's a regular.
Yeah, Ranch Dingus, big yourself up, but you got to read the room, big man. I said left back. You're talking crazy.
I definitely have not done any left back scouting.
What's that quote? Is it who with blood still out here on the streets? This is what you bringing me, brother?
Oh. Yeah, you're bugging out, bro. I need to see like four right wingers be signed before we talk about another left back, man. I'm sick and tired of this shit, man. I'm sick and tired of it, bro. Sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired.
I would have loved to have got into the winger conversation, but again, due to our technical difficulties, we started like an hour and a half later than due. But again, we are definitely going to get into that more and more in the coming weeks. Next question. Okay, this is a very important question actually. From Save Junior 7. 100 nights with Shensia or the treble? 100 nights.
She better chill, bro.
Is it 100 nights back to back, or can you like cash them in every night?
Hey, relax, bro. You're taking that treble, bro. Relax,
Hey,
man.
I got 100 nights is crazy.
Hey,
You know how many nights 100 nights is?
Hey, it's 3 months, 1 week and a half.
This is what I'm saying. You cash them in periodically, innit? Like every financial quarter.
Brothers, I want better for us, man.
Oh, yeah.
Man, come on, man.
I can't lie. I'm taking the treble, but that perked my ears up. 190.
You're crazy, bro. Is he perked up? He's at 100.
100. If he said 1, I was like, 100. 100 is mad, you know.
Hey, you're crazy, bro.
I need the treble, man. I need to see what certification Shensia got before I commit to anything, man.
Where's your medals?
Bro,
I'd say, what degree you got?
what degree you got, man? I don't care about your record labels. Actually, send me your plaques. How many plaques you got, man?
Nah, it's funny how I get called Malcolm X when this guy's pulling out a whole resume before he even conducts any sort of recon. But anyway, for me, give me the 100 nights, man. I know what I want to.
Yeah, big man.
Next question. Uncle, shout him out. When will we see the Promised Land brothers? These Zubimendi links are not moving me. I want to get Zubimendi mentioned in because obviously we didn't discuss. But yeah, quick thoughts on Zubimendi. We are going to do most likely another Patreon piece on Zubimendi in detail. But yeah, thoughts? Anything you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, quick on Zubimendi. I think a lot of people look at them. I think recently we've seen those what do you call them? The radars where people compare one player to another. Yeah. And I always feel they're very misleading because people just like looking at them and say, oh, this player is better than this player at this. No, the player just does this at the moment more than the other player. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that one player is better than the other at something. Like if you look at the way West Ham and Rice was at West Ham, like I'm sure his radars and his FREFs look completely different now at Arsenal. And I would argue he's been better at Arsenal than I've seen him at West Ham. I think he's evolved as a player. So I think that's one thing on these radars that people do comparison on with Zubimendi. And then with him, I think the requirement needs to be very clear. Like, let him come here and let's watch him when he's here. Because same as I remember when we talking about Sociedad, I remember when we were linked to Isaac and we were watching Isaac games. And I remember Sociedad was so bad, like offensively so bad. It was Oyabazal and Isak, but they barely got the ball to him. And yeah, I think Isak scored like 4 league goals in that season. It was really bad. But I was like, I think that whenever he had the ball, he looked quite good. Like he looks like a good player. People were like, nah, the goal scoring is not there. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that was Zubimendi. I'm not saying, oh my God, he looks unbelievable. They're just playing bad. But I feel like the environment you play in, the system you play in and stuff, that always takes a part in how a player looks. I'm trying to be positive because I do think there is qualities there. They are clearly transferable to our game model. And then, so I'm just going to have to watch and see what he's like in our game model. Like, what we should expect. We should put expectations on every signing we do. Like, the expectation is that this guy needs to come in, you know, and displace Partey. That's the expectation. So, yeah.
Yeah, just to add on that as well, I think he's a quality player, but he's not a player who is spectacular. He's not easy on the eye if you like glamorous things. He's a player who has got his fundamentals right, you know, so he does the right thing. He looks very simple when he's performing his actions, but he does the right thing. What I do, and I've been back and forth, you know, I've been back and forth on him. There are things that I really like about him. There are things that I wouldn't say I dislike, but there are things that worry me about how it would translate. As German Dan said, of course, and I've said this many times about him and many other players, the team context is very important. The examples and the reference points about Sociedad are good ones because it's very similar as well when we looked at Marino as well. You know, it was very similar. We're looking at him and saying he looks ordinary. What do we expect him to do? And Marino has looked ordinary for us as well. So it is valid to have a worry. Marino, who's someone who should be more athletic based on his build, his profile, and whatnot. He should be more athletic than Zubi, but Zubi looks to be a bit more dynamic than him, a bit more aggressive than him in his movements where he needs to be. But yeah, what I do like about him is that he's controlled. And when I was speaking earlier about the issues with Ødegaard and the issues with build up and progressing play and whatnot, I think what Zubi does give us, what Zubimendi will bring, is just an ability to build up and progress through him. And I think we'll be able to rely on him to be able to do that. What I like about him is that his operation speed I think is fantastic. He can execute very quickly off of one touch. He's very comfortable to knock the ball around and play the game at his pace, in his way. I like that he's got quick switches out to either flank off of his right foot. He can play it very quickly at long distance on the money. I think that's fantastic for what we need in game states and something that we don't do enough. I hope that we upgrade on Martinelli, but I do see a player like Zubimendi assisting Martinelli in certain game situations by releasing the ball into him with accuracy in behind at pace and speed. And Zubimendi as well, the other thing I like is defensively, he's very, I think he's an underrated player defensively. His reading of situations is very, very good. Defensive situations. And I've seen him on a number of occasions. People say, well, what does he do good? He looks ordinary. What he does do very well is he reads situations on both sides of the game, by the way, but he reads situations, sniffs out danger defensively. We talk about a fox in the box as an attacker who can sniff chances out and put the ball in the back of the net. But defensively, he can put out fires in a way which is understated, but I've seen him do it many a time. He stifles, he gets on the end of something, he gets a block in, he gets an interception in. And I think not to go, to kind of converse the point made about the radars, you obviously have to watch the game, but when I have looked at his radars or his bar charts on FB ref and stuff, those are the things that stand out. And they correspond with what I have seen when I have watched him as well. So, I'm seeing it with my eyes. I'm seeing it on paper and the numbers as well. So that is encouraging.
Quickly, why do you guys think so many of the elite teams are trying to sign them or have tried to sign them? Barcelona have tried, Madrid have tried, Bayern have tried, Liverpool have tried, not us.
Because I think he's a controller. I think they all see his value in terms of being a controller. What do they call him? Metronomic. And he is. He plays the game. He finds the rhythm of the game. Yeah. And he plays it and he just brushes it about. And I think they see that value. And he is someone that will allow he does the unglamorous stuff, I think, and the unremarkable stuff. And I think he allows the players that you need to be dangerous to just play higher up, and he will find them. And that's it. He breaks lines. He holds his position. He drops in between the centre backs. It's probably his favourite hallmark. But he drops in to receive. He can progress with passing. He can progress with carrying, all from lone six. He's very press resistant. So the elite teams, yes, we all have different styles, but we all like to control and be dominant, especially in the first phase of the game. That's one thing that us, Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, all of them, we all have in common. None of these guys are long ball merchants, and that us included. So he is a part. He's a part of that. He enables every team to be able to every team mentioned to be able to do that. It's why Liverpool wanted him.
Yeah. All right, a couple more questions. Then we'll wrap up. Diallo S _Diallo S. Another day with no minutes for Ethan. What do you reckon is going on? How do you see his game time and position in the squad for next season? I think he should take Trossard's role both in terms of squad role and importance in playing time.
That's a good question. And I've seen some theories. People think Ethan is tired or he's played a lot of minutes, and they've basically decided for him to not play as many minutes towards the end of the season. I don't know. I do think Ethan needs to take a more prominent role next season. And in a group chat, I always argue with people. People say, "Oh, we need a 10," and I'm like, "Why? If you rate Ethan, you don't think we need a 10 because we have
The issue is he got benched in crunch time, though. I think that's why. That's not
an issue for me. I'm looking at the future. Like, it doesn't matter what happened 6 months ago. Like, we just went out to PSG. No one gives a damn what we did in that semi-final against Real Madrid anymore. Like, what we do in 6 months is Ethan going to be the 10 we want or have faith in going forward. Then, you need to put the faith. I think you need to put faith in players. If you don't put the faith in the players, if we sign, I just think it's like a slap in the face if you sign someone in this position. Like, if I was Ethan, I'd be like, what? If I was his representatives, I'd be like, yo, don't worry, I'll find you a move. Like, it just feels like weird, especially given that he had a breakout season. yes, granted, MLS has played more, but I just don't see how you can believe in the player and then trying to sign someone over him, unless that player that can play in that position is very versatile and can play out wide as well, which what I said. So if you sign like a Eze or Xavi Simmons, I hear it because they can play in 3 different positions and they're not blocking Ethan's pathway. But if I'm looking at players that like basically similar profile to him, left-footed, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me. That's just blocking his pathway. And I always say fuck them kids, but I'm also looking at Dalman. You do have to make space for these players, otherwise they will go somewhere where the space is for them. So I think they have to be very smart in their succession planning on that position from Ødegaard to maybe Ethan, or I don't know where Ethan's going to play. I think he could be a 9, but they have to be smart in what they do. So I think you need to put their faith in them, and I definitely don't think Trossard should be getting a new deal. I'm against that, and I'd like us to get Ethan to get more minutes across the front line, not just in the Ødegaard position or Saka position, also at 9 at times or on the left wing. He just needs to play. I think he needs to be a part of the game every game, and you can manage his minutes in my opinion, but he should be one of the first to come off the bench or start the odd game. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah. All right. Last question. Baba Ronald, shout him out. Why do you think we as a fan base constantly berate the manager when this season was literally the worst case scenario in terms of injuries? I mean,
Leroy, man, you've been quiet for a while. It's time to talk, brother.
Man just rolled over and fell asleep.
He might have, he might have.
Yeah, I could answer this one. Me personally, I feel as if, injuries, of course, derailed our season. No one's going to deny that. I feel as if the way we plan to go into the season is what I have a big issue with. I mean, I've already spoken about how, for one reason or another, we went multiple transfer windows without reinforcing in our final third. Be it we missed out on a target or so on and so forth. So when you roll up to the season and your plan is to run Ødegaard 70 games a season, he doesn't perform. And again, relying on Gabriel Jesus in 24-25, I think, is a choice, not a particularly smart choice, but it is a choice. And then if you think about last season, as much as I was a proponent of Trossard, scoring the 15 goals he did last season, to expect for him to do that again is a big ask. So when we have injuries in our front line, this is why I get very frustrated. Obviously, we've gone over what happened in January. As soon as the window shuts, Martinelli and Havertz goes down. So when we talk about sympathy, this is where I find it difficult to dish out, because defensively we did have injuries, but we managed to cope because of how much we have invested in those areas. But as soon as Saka went down, it was just a slow, steady stream of disappointment. So I think that's where the frustration comes from. And you can apply that blame to the board and they do have culpability in that. But for me, I see it all as one. The manager, the director, the board, they all work together. They win together, they lose together. Especially now that Edu's out, we can't do the whole, it's Edu's fault for this and not Edu's fault for that. Like, for me, it's a collective decision that they all made in terms of the targets they went for last summer, in terms of, the policy for bringing players in and out. So I think that's where the frustration is. Obviously, this is season 3 of us challenging and not, getting over the hurdle. So naturally, there is going to be frustration. I think next season, though, can't lie, no one's trying to hear no excuses about injuries.
I'm going to run the same play next season. Stop venting, man.
Oh, my God. This guy doesn't want to see us win. Like, this is why I picked up other sports, This is why I'm a Minnesota Timberwolves fan for the next 3 months. This is why,
Oh, if you guys don't win, I'm going to be on you, my bro.
Listen, I need my glory from somewhere, man. I can't just keep believing in that project.
That's some punk stuff. That's what the Mugger lot do, man.
Talk to that young man.
I've seen certain Mugger man pick up basketball, American football, baseball, MMA, and boxing,
and news reporting
since they've been. So we don't do that, man. We stick to football.
Hold that, this will. But I feel like the first sort of person to blame is always going to be the manager, right? That's part of the job. So people people will say that's the bet Arteta made and he has to lay in. It's like, bro, Arteta wanted Watkins in January. Like, someone has told him that's not happening. It's not him that said it's not happening. So I think people, if you want to be nuanced and want to, have a discussion and debate with people, you have to also understand those details. Like, it's clear that he wanted someone, and Jan, it's clear that he wanted someone to be signed last summer. And they didn't pull the trigger on.
He also wants a new keeper. He also wants a new left back. He also wants a new centre back. So at some point, these wants that tend to center around one area of the pitch, people get tired of seeing that turnover in one area of the pitch and not the other parts of the pitch being addressed.
Yeah, it might be. But how much do you think he wants the goalkeeper more than he wants the striker? Hand on your heart, you think that?
Can't lie, I don't know at this point. This guy, his keeper fetish is serious. I've never seen a elite manager go through keepers every 18 months because they're not doing what he's doing. So, I mean, he wants a striker. Whether he gets a specific mold of striker is another issue. And is he a good enough manager to pivot if he doesn't get Isak? That's the other question. Like, is he going to throw his toys out the pram because we're not going to spend 145 million on Isak?
Bro. I see people talk about, this project is going to die if Gyokeres has been signed. Bro, this manager has cooked up 2 legit title charges and 1 Brock one with Eddie, Jesus, and Havertz up top. And Marino for some parts. Like, I don't understand how people think this guy can't cook if there's another guy coming in. Like, I seem pretty capable of doing that. The team seems pretty capable. That's why, even though I'm not that big of a fan of like Gyokeres' profile and stuff, like, if he signed, he signed. Just do your job, innit? Because if you're a competent goal scorer, you should be able to cook in this team, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think we'll wrap it up for now. Again, we're definitely going to get into more and more of these conversations in the coming weeks as the transfer window news gets more and more hot. Thank you, Bert, for feeding the streets, because, boy, we're getting a new headline like every 3 hours on Arsenal Twitter, so I do appreciate that.
I need him to relax, because it's too much. It's too much.
Hagen might explode by the weekend, there's too much content.
Just in, breaking news. Shut up!
But yeah, we've got Newcastle this weekend. Let's hope we wrap up Champions League and we're not still discussing it this time next week, and we can really get into the future planning stuff. But yeah, guys, thank you all for staying with me. It's late. Thanks for your contributions. We'll be back doing this again next week. Peace.
Yo, when I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard, last stand.